Well, hi! We survived Halloween. Again. Now I think we're just going to skip Thanksgiving and go straight to the Yuletide because that's what we do now. But anyway, I'm working on the video this intro will be attached to. It's about a mansion in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's called the McRaven Mansion. Really neat history, great guide. He talked to me a lot, told me some stories. I want to share it with you. This would be a great place for you to take your group to. Beautiful scenery. Folks down south are just so incredibly friendly and pleasant. So you may want to consider giving it a shot, but check it out. Here's some of the stories this guy tells. Also, I do want to remind you, I'm going to be doing a little bit less on this because I am doing the audio podcast now, and that's called The Dungeon. It's on Podbean. It will be on iTunes very, very soon. Just got a few more things to work out. So you may want to check out The Dungeon as well. It's good for listening as you're driving around. No pictures, so you can kind of take it in. Got some great guests so far. Going to be doing some UFOs, some Bigfoot stuff soon. Right now still have ghosts and demons because that's what Halloween's about, right? So check out the Dungeon on Podbean. And also, check this out now.
And you ain't just a whistling Dixie. You ain't just a lapping your knee. I'm a grandson of the Southland and heir to the Confederacy. You ain't just a whistling Dixie, 'cause the cattle call's calling me home. So put me down there where I wanna be, plant my feet with Robert E. Lee, bury my bones under a cypress tree, and never let me know.
Okay, guys. I'm talking low because this house just kind of makes you talk low, so listen in tight. This is Brian, and he is the founder of the Mississippi Paranormal Society. We are in the McRaven Mansion in Vicksburg, and we're just about to take a walk around with him, and he's going to show us some of the amazing haunts in this place. Yep. How long have you been here?
I worked under the former owner, Mr. French, for a couple of years back in the early 2000s, and then when Kendrick and Stephen Reed bought it last year, they hired me back on to be, I guess, their paranormal guy.
And how long have you been doing it then?
Paranormal investigating over 20 years.
And how long in here?
Oh, let's see, 2001, did a couple of investigations, and then over the last year, probably a good 20 times we've investigated in here.
So what's the basis of the history here? Was this a Civil War thing? There was a battle near here.
Yeah, well, the Siege of Vicksburg in 1863, the house was used by Confederate soldiers. The grounds was entrenchments for them, infantry, and some artillery. And this has gone through, not just the Siege of Vicksburg, but the Trail of Tears. This was a stopping point on that. This is where Native Americans camp out, and for that, and a lot of them probably died from diseases and starvation. There's reports of Native American spirits being seen on the back of the property in the tree lines.
Okay. So you've got American Indians, Civil War. What other kind of
former residents of the home? A good many of them. We've actually been able to count up to at least 14 known spirits that have been spotted here over the years.
Any chance we'll catch one today?
You never know.
All right.
You never know.
All right, well, let's give it a shot.
This over here is Mr. John H. Bob. He built this section in 1849. Okay. He had brickyards and sawmills here in Vicksburg. He had a brickyard out in that clearing next to the house. During the Siege of Vicksburg, he and his wife Selena, they moved out of the home, let the Confederate Army take over the inside of the house, and they dug a cave underneath the home. And that's where they lived for the 47-day siege. Once the siege was over on July 4th, 1863, they came back, fixed the house, what needed to be repaired. A lot of damage was done to the home. Then they, continued living in it. Mr. Bob was eventually murdered by Union troops in 1864. He found some of them tearing up his gardens, and he got into an argument with them. He threw a brick and knocked one of them off of a horse, and they came back later, and they ended up taking him to the, right off the back of the property, ended up shooting him several times. And ever since then, he's been seen all over the house, all over the grounds. We'll smell his cigar smoke. Very recently, one of the tour guides was looking out the window upstairs and saw him down below. And he was just walking around smoking a cigar. Yeah, he's a... In 1882, Mr. William Murray, who's pictured over there, bought the house. And he had the first full family that we know of to live in the home. He had married a local girl after the Civil War ended. He left the Union Army. Ellen Flynn was her name, and they had 7 children together, 3 boys and 4 girls. And 2 of the girls, Ella and Annie, they lived in the house until 1960. They were spinsters, they never married, and also they were hoarders. So whenever in 1960, the Bradway family came in and bought it from Annie, the last daughter, they had to really clean the house out. And there's reports that it was over a dozen dump truck loads, just to clean out all the trash.
So, just out of curiosity, I wonder how him got along in here.
That has been asked several times, and it makes you wonder. One story I was going to tell you about happened at one of our paranormal events about 3-4 months ago. Jay, one of the tour guides, was also a member of my team. She and Josh, another team member, they had a group up here. And they were all sitting around, and Jay got up because she heard movement over in the gentleman's changing room. And she, just standing there in the doorway, she's looking back and forth. And we also had a motion detector in there, sitting on top of the table. And it was kind of tilted towards the window because we heard reports of Mr. Bob and Mr. Murray walking out on the balcony being seen out there. And it started going on and off. And all of a sudden, follow me and I'll show you this. This window just started doing that. And it kind of freaked her out. This is like her first time as a team member. And, she kind of felt uneasy because it happened so quickly. So she comes downstairs, she goes outside where I was in the back courtyard, and we're just chit-chatting. I get her calmed down. And, 5 minutes later, she comes back in. She gets right to the top of the staircase, and Mr. Bob's staring at her from the other side. And they locked eyes. And there was another tour guide and a team member in the bedroom, and they were trying to Jay was trying to get Carrie's attention. Whenever Carrie turned around, she saw a shadow figure in here, and she said a 4-lettered word, or Jay said it, and anyway, Jay ended up, that freaked her out so much that she ended up going back outside for a little while. But yeah, that was very recent, and so is Mr. Bob being seen down on the ground. Out of the about 14 spirits, Mr. Bob, Mr. Murray, Confederate soldiers, Union soldiers have been seen. I'm pretty sure some of them have passed away on the property whenever the Union Army came in and occupied after the siege. And I guess for a while in 1865, there was some Union staff here. in the house after Selena Bob moved to South Louisiana after Mr. Bob's murder. So this is the 1836 gallery that Sheriff Stephen Howard built. His wife, Mary Elizabeth, she's one of our more prominent spirits. She's also our most popular spirit. A lot of conversations with magazines and stuff, TV shows has been centered around her because of as much activity as she's had. She loves playing with lights. She likes touching people. She's turned off, well, they say that it's her. She kind of gets to blame for a lot of things, like turning the alarm off, making it go off at night. And she used to do that a lot whenever Mr. French owned the house. So the Vicksburg Police Department, they were kind of, getting tired of all the calls out here. So like, okay, we need to figure out what's going on. Why is your lights coming on all the time? Why is the alarm going off? So they put a couple of police officers right at the back gate. And I'm guessing from my understanding that they were given a key and they were given the alarm code so they can go in and disengage if anything ever happens, so they can see for themselves what's going on. And one night the alarm went off and every light in this middle section turned on. They came in, disengaged the alarm, walked around the house, got to this bedroom, and every light went off and they went out the house, got back in their car and left.
Perfect. That's one of my favorite untold stories.
Yeah, the section that we're at right now is we're on the 1797 balcony. The porch is down below. There was not a staircase here in 1797. It was just a ladder that Andrew Lass, who built this section, would pull up at night. One of the reasons being is because he was a murderer and a thief. He and his brothers, they would go into different territories and they would rob and kill people and come back over here for safety. We kind of estimate probably sometime between, 1805 and 1815. There is a popular story that is told in the Devil's Backbone, the story of the Natchez Trace. It's a book. That Andrew got a gut shot while fighting with some French soldiers down in French territory. His brothers got him back up here, and they saw that gut shot back then, that was pretty much their death sentence. They didn't want the government here handing him over to the French government, so there won't be any friction between the two. So he, his wife, as the story goes, slit his throat just to finish him off. So that's the popular story. We really don't know how true that is. Of course, frontier people back then, this was a very rough region. So.
Now, is his spirit in here or anything that you're aware of? Yeah, come across him.
As far as I know, he's only been seen one time.
Okay.
And that was like back around 2000, 2001. Mr. French had a friend. They did reenactments on the property together. And that friend's daughter went in there and saw a gentleman sitting in a chair. And kind of big, bushy beard, long hair, disheveled look, nasty clothes is from the description. Yeah, this is the room that Sheriff Stephen Howard built, the section he built in 1836.
And what'd you say his name was?
He was sheriff of
Okay.
Vicksburg, Warren County, Stephen Howard.
So 2 sheriffs have lived here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in that section, then whenever Sheriff Howard built this section, he bought that section from the son of Newitt Vick. And he built this section, he closed all that in, the balcony and the porch, he had the staircase, put this bedroom and the dining room down below. He had a balcony and porch on that side and on this side, but during the siege of Vicksburg, these were blown off and Mr. Bob never put them back. That was a door at one time. So he just bricked that up into a window.
Blown off by a cannon fire?
Yeah, this house took a lot of damage. A lot of damage. Pretty much probably 50% of the front part of the house had to be replaced. The billy stick over on the table over there belonged to Sheriff Howard. And next to it is her son's baptism from 1853. He was named after his grandfather, Stephen. And you'll want to get a really good close-up on the one on the wall. That is Mary Elizabeth's engagement. That's Mary Elizabeth's funeral notice from September 1st, 1836.
Right here.
Yep, you hear that?
I heard something over here.
Yep.
I assume it's just the wood.
That was armoire. Mary, are you in here? Can you do something for us? Don't be shy. You do things all the time while I'm showing people around. Guess not. I guess that was it. That was a good thud.
I just assumed it was because I was walking over here. They didn't know.
That was the armoire. I've been here for so long, I can tell what pieces of furniture is doing. Last November, I had a paranormal group come up here and they wanted to investigate the home. And I was showing them around, kind of like what I'm doing with y'all, and just telling them the popular, stories and the hot spots. And one lady was standing right about here, and I was standing over there, and she had her arms down like this, and she had her purse dangling from her arm. And it kept getting, she said, my purse keeps getting tugged. And I'm like, okay. And about 10, 15 seconds later, I was standing over there, and one of our other team members kind of moved over to the side, and we both saw the purse move back, hang there for a couple of seconds, and fall forward. She loves playing with stuff.
So
I was going around the house making sure everything was ready for haunted tours. And I had just gotten here and I hadn't taken my pistol off my side, and I was coming up the back staircase. And I usually announce coming up. So I announced coming up. And right whenever I got to the doorway and started to come in here, I just thought, I'll just say something funny, like Sheriff's Department. So I said, Sheriff's Department. Came in here, and this was rocking back and forth, and it stopped, like somebody did that. And I was like, no, you're the sheriff.
okay, so this house dates back to the late 1700s. You've had murderers living here. You've had police living here. This place was practically, just damaged badly by Civil War.
Right.
Surgeries on the ground, which undoubtedly a lot of people didn't survive. You've got a pit of body parts dating back to the Civil War.
Right.
Is there any question why this place is haunted?
There shouldn't be any question. I mean, you got the perfect recipe for it. You got death, sadness, trauma, murder, anger.
And on top of all of it, a 15-year-old girl who likes to play with doors in front of tourists.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right, guys, you've got to try this. It is by the way, where did the name McRaven come from?
It used to be the street that ran on the other side of the train tracks.
Okay. McRaven Mansion, Vicksburg, Mississippi. Thank you, Brian.
You've been a problem. Thank y'all.